Hello all and welcome back to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed. In today's episode we are finally going to round up the known pieces of Eden. After three long episodes, we're finally at the end. Now, before we get to the end, I would like to share some news with you all, which I put on the social media already, so if you pop over there you'll see it already. You can rejoice as I have. Now, the good news is, Spreaker has sent my podcast off to Deezer, which is another musical site, and Deezer has accepted. So I am now on everything I can be except Apple Podcast. But Apple Podcast is proving a bit of a tricky one. I'm not going to bore you with that. Let's jump back in. Last episode we stopped at the Pyramid of Isu, which for a recap was the pyramid that we see in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, a very unique piece of Eden that allowed us to see people's memories when touched, which was like a prehistoric version of the Animus. And I'm using prehistoric because we all know it was before humans and everything started actually walking. Which makes things, if the Isu was the first civilization, where does the dinosaurs come in? Was it like Isu, humans, then dinosaurs? Or was it Isu, humans, and dinosaurs? Yeah, I'm going off track here. Right, let's jump in with the Rings of Eden. Not to be confused with the One Ring to rule them all in Lord of the Rings. As again, I had no idea this existed. I had to use external help from Assassin's Creed Wiki and a load of friends. So shout out to everyone that's helped me. I thank you. So the Ring of Eden is, as you guessed it, a piece of Eden molded in the form of a ring. Ta-da! All done. Let's move to the next one. Only kidding. The Ring of Eden is a unique one as it creates an EMF field, which is an electromagnetic field, which was able to deflect projectiles such as energy-based weapons. But they did not grant the wearer complete immunity, so it's a bit of a tricky one. It may make you invulnerable to certain energy-based weapons, but you are not completely immune. So you use it, but you could risk the risk of being shot at still. It was used by some Isu in conjunction with a shield and device, so it would have been a very successful use for defense. And I think my nose is going to start playing up again. Yay! Now, the next one is the Scepter of Aset. I really love that name, Scepter of Aset. Its simple powers was grant charisma and leadership. That's all that was known about it. Sorry again for my nose. And granting charisma and leadership may sound a dull and mundane thing, but deep down, if you have the power of charisma and leadership, you could probably blag your way into anywhere. The highest office, maybe a military base. Maybe you could pose as a military leader and hold the whole world at ransom because you're so charismatic and you've got decent leadership. Or if you want to, you can become a dictator and rule an entire state. So it may not grant the wielder immense power to destroy cities, but maybe it allows this wielder to destroy cities over time using human skills with leadership dictatorship, which is a very scary one to actually have. The next one is called the Shards of Eden, which I really didn't understand what these are because they're just basic leftover fragments of Isu technology that do maintain power of the pieces of Eden. So they are capable of possessing different qualities and can become unique or different. They use same powers as the staves or the rings, or maybe use the same as an Apple of Eden. There's not much known about the shards. The Mayans did, however, create armor out of some of the shards, which I believe is the armor that Edward Kenway wore that allowed us to be deflected by bullets, which was a very annoying piece of armor to try and equip. But this means with Shards of Eden, you never truly know what power you hold. So it's basically a lucky dip. You could either hold immense power to bring down a city to its knees, or you can have a mundane power that allows you to read thoughts. So maybe it's not one that everyone's rushing to grab. Yet, though. The next one is the Shroud of Eden. Now, the Shroud of Eden to me reminds me a lot of Jason and the Golden Fleece from Greek mythology. It's something that I'm ashamed of that Odyssey never went down, because it would have been a really cool way to tie in the Aesop and Greek mythology. But this Shroud of Eden was used in a war, in an Aesop civil war, as a healing device because it allowed the wielder to be healed and create regeneration. It was also a way of communication with a conscious conscience, but I think that's the original, not any of the ones that were developed afterwards. And the conscious conscience, I believe, my memory is a bit fuzzy, but I believe that's the Isu version of heaven or hell or afterlife. They don't die, the conscious just evolves into a nexus of sorts. And the other thing the Shroud was able to do was introduce a bleeding effect. This is why this would have also been an amazing piece to see in Odyssey, because Cassandra delivering the Shroud to Layla would have induced the bleeding effect into Layla, and Layla, who hasn't really had any bleeding effect from Origins to Odyssey, would make her more of a skilled assassin, because we know the bleeding effect, how much it helped Desmond Miles find the hidden bunker in Assassin's Creed 3, Ezio's hidden area in, I think it was number 2, and gave him a lot of fast track training. So I believe they have missed out on a big trick with the Shroud. The next one is, oh, I can't read, sorry, I've got a script and my phone's just like, no, you cannot read the script. Here we go. Next one is my favourite, but it's also the one I hate. Okay, I know I shouldn't say hate, but I don't like it that much because I think it's too in your face. It's really good, but it's just in your face. And that's the Spear of Leonidas. Now, holy hell, I'll be here all day if I told you everything on power. So all I'm going to say is the power of this thing is immense. When you play Odyssey, it is something your character will always wield. If you pick Cassandra or Alexios, you'll always have the Spear of Leonidas. It may be broken at the moment, but you'll know more that in the story. And it basically, if you play the game right, you are invulnerable. And it's so OP. Now, I like it because it shows that even though the Isu were this big technical race who strive for everything, were so obsessed with power and warfare, because this thing can annihilate in the wrong hands. I didn't like it in Odyssey because I did feel like it was too much power for your character to have. I feel like sometimes if you got it right, you were just a one-man god. And don't get me wrong, it was cool at times. I've always liked my piece to be something you've got to grasp for. You know, you've got to race to the temple to get it for the Templars, or you've got to stop the assassins having it, like in Rogue. You know, I'm not bothered what side goes after it. I just want my piece of Eden something strong and not something that's so OP that you can have all the time. The next one is the Staves of Eden, which is a very unique one because it's one that you can use in conjunction with Apple of Eden. You saw it, the Pope use it in Assassin's Creed. Oh Christ, my memory's flashback now. Assassin's Creed 2 with the Battle of Ezio, and he uses it to create illusions, mind control, and can open a temple vault, which is what Ezio uses to talk with Juno, and it's how he realizes he's just basically in the past. He may be living, but there is something waiting for him in the future, something greater than the fight he's doing now. And it was a very powerful piece of Eden for the Pope to be using, and I really think I'm messing up on this, and I apologise if I have. It has been too long since I've played Assassin's Creed 2, and I'm feeling clumsy. But again, on another note, this piece of Eden is one of the strongest you could have, and it seems with this you are going to put yourself in immense power that you could be unstoppable. If you're being attacked by an army of 20 people, just use illusions and they don't know where you are. Turn yourself into a tree, no one's going to find you. The next one is my favourite. I will put it out there, I love these. Swords of Eden. Oh, the Swords of Eden. We know the Swords of Eden could shoot laser bolts out of them from Unity, but its history goes as far back as Joan of Arc, King Arthur and Excalibur, and even references to Genghis Khan, which is epic. And now the powers were charisma and leadership again. negate the effect of illusions. So if somebody uses a scepter to cause illusions, you're gonna be fine. Instant translocation, echolocation of foes, and projecting energy blast. This is an amazing weapon, and it can show why King Arthur was the most badass warrior of all if Excalibur was a piece of Eden. I really enjoyed it, and I loved it was something that Arno went after, and I do like the fact that you can actually use it at the very end game. So I like that you had to get it in game, but I couldn't see playing the entire Unity with this big sword that just decimates everyone. And now, the last one, guys. Drumroll, please. And now, word of a fact before I read this. If anybody is unhappy with how Odyssey handled mythology, be warned, this next one is a Viking artifact discovered in the comics, meaning there is a possibility if the next game is a Viking-based game, could have this artifact in. Now, as you know in my channels, I don't deal with rumors, I deal with facts. 100%, everything I give you is facts. I do have my own thoughts and theories, but that's opinions, but I do not give you any rumors about upcoming games. So all I can say is, if the next game is a Viking game, which I'm not going to go into, this could be something that we look into. The main powers of the Trident of Eden was fear inducement, devotion inducement, and faith inducement. And these three things, as you can guess, is, well, 3 prongs of a trident. And I didn't read the comics, so I've had to get some help about this and know a bit more. And this piece of Eden is quite powerful. You can induce fear, devotion, and faith. 3 building blocks of society. Faith in all religions to this day is one of the most powerful things around. Devotion, if someone's devoted to you, they'll do anything. And fear at the same time. One man could condemn an army with the trident and nobody will stop him out of faith, devotion, and fear. Whoever uses it is the most badass assassin or Templar around. And I quite like that. I want it. It's like a pokey stick. And that is it, guys. That is all known pieces of Eden. There is more out there. I will admit, people have asked me, that can't be everything. No, there is more pieces of Eden out there, but these are the known ones that we've got definite hard proof existed from comics, books, and have all been compiled together. I hope you really enjoyed this free journey. I found it quite amazing because I've discovered some I never knew before, and some I did, but I wasn't so happy with. Preferably Spear of Leonidas, great piece of weaponry. I would have liked to have got it at the end game and then used the end game because you beat the campaign, you beat the game, you're just running around doing side quests. Like with Arno, beat the game, you have the sword at end game, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't make your assassin feel super powerful all the way through. Now, thanks for all for listening, but before we end it, I'm going to give you a sneak taste of what's coming next week. Next week is a collaboration between some friends of the Gamer Hive community. And it's a topic I'm very skeptical about, but a lot of people believe Assassin's Creed games need to have assassins in them, and if they don't have them, they can't be called Assassin's Creed games. So starting next week, I'm going to do a 2-part series where we're going to look at, can the Assassin's Creed universe exist in games, comics, and books without assassins? And I strongly believe, using the same theory of Elder Scrolls and Far Cry, that the games can. So thank you all for listening. I hope you really enjoyed this. Again, everything's backed up on my YouTube now because I'm worried I might delete episodes. Yikes. So if you want to know more, head over to my social media and I'll catch you all next time.